You did not arrive here by accident. The words meeting your ears are not random vibrations. They are signals written into the script of your becoming. This moment, this listening, is a thread woven through the labyrinth of your life, and it has led you to the threshold of a truth you may have sensed, but never fully named. You've felt it, that strange silence, not the comforting hush of meditation, but a silence that feels like static humming inside your bones, a silence that seems hostile, almost accusing, as if the universe itself has withdrawn its voice. You reach for the familiar signs, the synchronicities, the bursts of clarity that once guided your steps, and find only emptiness. That emptiness presses against your chest like a locked door. Yet here is the secret the caterpillar never suspects. The silence is not a void, but a chamber, not a punishment, but a passage. It is the velvet darkness that precedes every dawn, the pause before the symphony begins, the womb in which a new self quietly assembles. What you interpret as abandonment is, in fact, an initiation into the most sacred metamorphosis of your life, because the cycle you've known, the striving, the visualizing, the endless repetition of practices has brought you here for a reason. They were the cocoon, and now that cocoon must feel like it is dissolving around you, because the time of crawling is ending inside you. A deeper architecture is stirring, a blueprint not written by fear or memory, but by the original intelligence of your soul. The silence you fear is the very medium through which it is being constructed. You are not being erased, you are being rewritten. And the invitation is simple. Though not easy, stop resisting the silence. Sit with it, as if it were an old teacher. Breathe with it, as if it were a lover who knows your deepest name. Let it work on you in ways your mind cannot comprehend, because the shift has already begun. Even now, even here, and from that silence, we slip into the trembling edge where identity unravels. What once held you together now feels like it is breaking apart, thread by fragile thread. The familiar voice inside whispers something is wrong, something is ending, something has been lost. And in that whisper, the panic of the caterpillar begins. You know this panic. It visits in the hours when the world is quiet, and you sense yourself dissolving into something you cannot name. It is the fear of becoming nothing, the dread of being erased from your own story. Yet beneath the tremor of that fear lies a truth we rarely acknowledge. Every transformation begins with disintegration. Think of the caterpillar. For its entire existence, it knew only crawling, consuming, seeking the next leaf. Its entire identity was built on appetite and survival. And then the moment came when our instinct guided it to weave a chrysalis, a tomb of silk. Inside that fragile shell, it could not hold on to what it was. Its body liquefied, its structure collapsed, and the creature it had always been ceased to exist. Imagine the terror of that dissolution if it were conscious the way you are. Imagine feeling your organs melt, your memories blur, your very shape dissolve into a formless soup. The panic would scream, "This is death. This is the end. I have failed." And yet, it is in that soup, what biologists call imaginal soup, that the blueprint of wings first awakens. The very cells of the butterfly, silent and dormant since birth, begin to activate in the destruction of the caterpillar's form. What looks like annihilation is, in truth, a sacred redesign. So too with you. When the practices stop working, when the affirmations echo hollow, when the divine phone line goes dead, you believe you have been abandoned. But this is not abandonment. It is initiation. The collapse of certainty, the liquefaction of identity, is the necessary prelude to emergence. Still, the mind resists. It tries to decorate the tomb, to rebuild what is dissolving, to tighten the threads of the cocoon so that it does not unravel. And that resistance is what amplifies your suffering, because the panic of the caterpillar is not born from dissolution itself, but from the refusal to let go of form. We are taught to cling to identity roles, achievements, traumas, even our spiritual practices as anchors that give us meaning. But what if those anchors are the very weight preventing your ascent? What if everything you thought was essential was simply scaffolding, meant only to hold you until this moment of release? Pause for a moment. Let that possibility sink in. The fears you have carried, the beliefs you defended, even the practices that brought you here, they were the leaves of the caterpillar. Useful once, necessary once, but they cannot teach you flight. This panic you feel is not madness. It is not failure. It is the final cry of an identity that has reached the limit of its usefulness. The caterpillar cannot imagine the sky. It only knows how to crawl, and so it fights dissolution, not knowing that inside the chaos of its undoing, wings are forming. Do you see the paradox? What you fear as an ending is the surest proof of your becoming. The panic is not a mistake, it is a threshold. And if you breathe into it, if you sit in the trembling silence long enough, you will feel it shift. The anxiety begins to soften into awe. The terror begins to dissolve into trust. Yes, the cocoon feels like a coffin, but it is also a cradle. Yes, the silence feels like abandonment, but it is also the sacred pause in which your soul writes a new script for your life. So the next time the panic rises, remember, you are not being destroyed. You are being unmade so that a greater design can be revealed. The chrysalis is not the end of the story. It is the beginning of the page where the caterpillar ends, and the butterfly waits to be written. And in that waiting, in that trembling suspension, the most important secret emerges. You are not the caterpillar anymore. You are not yet the butterfly. You are the space in between. And that space, though it feels unbearable, is where miracles are born. And it is from that trembling space in between the cocoon that feels like a coffin that another revelation emerges. What you've been calling emptiness is not absence at all. It is the 0 point, the most misunderstood terrain of both physics and the soul. For the old mind, 0 means nothing, a void, a blank, a negation. But look closer, and science itself begins to whisper a different truth. At the subatomic level, the vacuum is not empty but brimming. Quantum physicists call it the 0 point field, a vast ocean of potential where particles flicker in and out of existence, where galaxies, stars, and entire realities are conceived before they are born. It is not dead space. It is pure latency, like the silent pause before a symphony erupts into sound. This is the paradox that both mystics and scientists circle around. The deepest silence is not lifeless. It is the womb of creation itself. So when you feel the static silence pressing in, when your practices seem to fail, when the universe offers no reply, you are not cut off. You are submerged in the very field where all futures live. The disconnection you fear is actually reconnection to the most primal source of everything. It is not absence, but origin. Think of the caterpillar again, dissolved in its imaginal soup. To its dissolving mind, there is nothing. To our eyes, the chrysalis looks still, mute, and empty. Yet inside, the greatest transformation on earth is underway. The very absence of form is what allows new form to be woven. What looks like 0 is actually infinity. This is what the 0 point teaches. The silence is not punishment, it is calibration. Your soul is resetting itself to its pure frequency, free of the noise of memory, trauma, and expectation. And just as a radio must be tuned to silence before it can lock onto a clearer station, you too must pass through this hush to access your true signal. But the mind resists. It wants sound, proof, movement, It distrusts silence, because silence cannot be measured or controlled. Yet silence is the language of the universe. The moment before let there be light. To sit in that silence is to stand in the workshop of creation itself. Before matter crystallizes, before destiny takes shape, do you see what is happening? The panic of the caterpillar dissolves into awe when you realize the void is not void at all. The 0 point is not a dead end, it is a sacred beginning. Imagine the vastness of space. To the untrained eye, it is darkness, emptiness. But astronomers tell us it is alive with energy, radiation, unseen particles dancing in eternal flux. So too with your inner silence. What seems like a blank is alive with seeds of possibility, waiting for the right conditions to sprout. And here lies the invitation. Instead of fleeing the silence, lean into it. Instead of demanding signs, listen to the static. Hidden within it are the whispers of futures not yet born. The 0 point field does not shout, it waits for you to attune. This is why your affirmations falter, why your visualizations feel hollow. They belong to the old system, the caterpillar mind, still trying to crawl while wings are being formed. But at the 0 point, no effort is required. Only surrender, only presence, only trust that in the seeming nothing, everything is being composed. The silence you dread is the mind of creation before the universe speaks. And you are being invited not just to witness it, but to merge with it. So let this truth settle into your bones. 0 does not mean nothing. 0 means origin. 0 means calibration. 0 means you are standing in the cosmic womb, in the unlit chamber where the spark of your next reality is already alive, waiting only for your surrender to ignite it into form. And if you can embrace that paradox, if you can breathe into that field without panic, you will feel it, the faint hum of your wings, not yet unfurled but already written into the fabric of what you are becoming. From the 0 point field, where silence proves itself to be infinite potential, we descend even deeper into the living metaphor your own biology has been carrying all along, the imaginal soup. It sounds poetic, doesn't it? But it is not metaphor alone, it is science. When the caterpillar spins its chrysalis, it doesn't simply sprout wings from its old body. No, it undergoes one of the most radical transformations in all of nature. Enzymes are released that digest the caterpillar from the inside out. Organs, muscles, and tissue melt down into a formless liquid. What was once a creature crawling leaf to leaf literally dissolves into nothing recognizable. And yet, floating inside that soup are something extraordinary. Clusters of cells called imaginal cells. They were present all along, dormant, ignored, even attacked by the caterpillar's immune system during its earlier life. But in the silence of dissolution, they awaken, they multiply. They begin to organize themselves into an entirely new pattern, and from that unrecognizable soup, a new being takes shape. You see, the caterpillar is not destroyed at all. It is repatterned. What looked like annihilation is, in fact, orchestration. The imaginal cells do not rebuild the caterpillar, they build the butterfly. And this is exactly what is happening within you. All the dissolution you feel, the loss of direction, the silence of your spiritual line, the failure of practices that once carried you, this is your inner identity liquefying. The old muscles of personality, the structures of belief, the memories that once held you upright, all melting into energetic soup. It feels terrifying because your mind cannot map what it is becoming. The caterpillar cannot imagine flight. Its neural system is wired only for crawling. But in the soup, new codes awaken, new designs emerge. These are your imaginal cells. In human terms, they arrive as flashes of insight you can't explain, as whispers of inspiration that last only a moment. as dreams that feel like they belong to a self you haven't met yet. They are the blueprint of your butterfly life, pulsing quietly inside the silence. But here is the danger: the mind, in its panic, resists the soup. It tries to reconstruct old forms. It clings to past identity. It reaches back to the leaf, desperate for certainty. And in doing so, it drowns out the delicate signals of the imaginal cells. The suffering doesn't come from dissolution itself. It comes from resistance to dissolution. This is why surrender matters. Surrender is not defeat. It is permission. It is you stepping aside so the imaginal blueprint can orchestrate itself. Because the truth is, you do not need to design your wings. That design already exists within you, written since birth, waiting for this very stage of unmaking to be activated. Think about this. The caterpillar never studied aerodynamics, never read manuals on how to fly, never compared wing colors on social media. Flight was always encoded in its being, but only through complete dissolution could that code be accessed. So too for you, your gifts, your purpose, the expanded life that calls you. They are not achievements to be earned. They are codes to be awakened. And the only way those codes activate is through the alchemy of dissolution, the liquefaction of everything you thought was you. If you can allow yourself to float in that soup, to soften into that apparent nothingness, you will feel it. Not a dramatic explosion, not a lightning bolt, but subtle connections forming. Thoughts that feel lighter, emotions that pass more quickly, a sense of expansion without reason. These are your imaginal cells linking together, whispering in a language beyond words. We are building the new you. Trust the process. And here's the invitation: instead of fearing the soup, bless it. Instead of cursing the silence, recognize it as the fertile broth in which your future is already stirring. Every piece of your old identity that dissolves is not wasted. It becomes food for the blueprint of your butterfly. Nothing is lost. Everything is repurposed. So let your fear melt. Let your memories dissolve. Let even your definitions of yourself soften. Because you are not the caterpillar being destroyed. You are the soup in which the butterfly is being born. And if you can trust that, then this silence, this heavy, disorienting void, will no longer feel like a tomb. It will feel like a womb. And you will know, even before your wings appear, that they were always already inside you, waiting for the silence to wake them. And so, from the imaginal soup where hidden codes awaken, we return again to the silence that began this journey. But now we see it differently. What once felt like the absence of guidance is revealed as something else entirely, a sacred operating room. Picture it. The lights dim, the outside world is kept away. Every sound is hushed, not because nothing is happening, but because something so delicate, so intricate, so irreversible is underway that any noise could disrupt it. You are not abandoned. You are on the table of cosmic surgery. The scalpel here is not steel, but light. The hands moving through your energy are unseen, but they are real. They are recalibrating the deepest circuits of your being. That is why the silence feels so deafening. It is not a neglectful silence. It is a reverent silence. A silence maintained so that the work can be precise, so that no interference disturbs the delicate recalibration of your frequency. And the truth is, this recalibration cannot happen while you are still clinging to old habits of noise. Every desperate affirmation, every attempt to force a vibration higher, every scramble for reassurance, they are like a patient jerking awake on the table, interrupting the surgeon mid-operation. With the best of intentions, you create interference, and interference is pain. The pain you feel in this season of silence is not punishment. It is resistance. It is the friction between who you were and who you are becoming. The caterpillar's mind cries, "Fix this, find the leaf, call back the signs." But the butterfly's blueprint whispers, "Rest, trust, allow." The tension between those voices is the ache in your chest. So what is required of you now is the rarest kind of courage to do nothing, to trust the stillness, to honor the silence as proof that the work is underway. This is not passivity, it is participation of the highest order. You are lending your consent, your faith, to the cosmic surgeons who are rewriting your energetic architecture. Think of a library at night. The books are closed, the halls silent, and yet inside that silence lies the wisdom of generations. To walk through that library and demand noise is to miss the truth. The stillness itself is the message. The same is true of your inner silence. It is not absence but archive, not emptiness but orchestration. And yet, how often do we misinterpret it? We tell ourselves the universe has turned away, that God is no longer listening, that the path we walked has ended in nothing. These are the fearful conclusions of the caterpillar mind, blind to the sacred operation underway. But if you shift your perception, the silence becomes holy. It becomes a sanctuary. It becomes the hum of a machine so advanced you cannot hear its workings, only sense its results when you awaken. This is the essence of surrender, to stop kicking against the silence and instead recline into it, to let yourself be carried even when every cell in your body craves control, to admit that your mind does not have the map for flight, and therefore its panic is not guidance, it is static. And in that moment of surrender, something happens. The silence softens. It ceases to be an enemy. It begins to feel like a presence, vast and gentle, holding you with infinite patience. You realize you were never alone on the table. The surgeon was always there, waiting for you to stop struggling so the real work could begin. So the next time you find yourself in the deafening quiet, remember this: you are not being ignored. You are being rewoven. You are not left behind. You are being operated on by the most precise hands in existence. And the silence that terrifies you is simply the anesthesia of transformation, the sacred hush that allows the miracle to proceed. Trust it, honor it, let it work, for this is not the end of your story. It is the quiet chapter where your wings are stitched together, thread by unseen thread, so that when the silence finally lifts, you will not simply crawl back into life, you will rise. And from that operating room silence, where the soul lies under careful recalibration, another image emerges, one born not of biology, but of technology. Because sometimes the clearest way to understand the mystery of transformation is to compare it to a system you already know. Your soul, my friend, is undergoing nothing less than a software update. Think of the times your device suddenly halts, the screen going dark, the cursor frozen, commands ignored. To the impatient eye, it looks broken. But what's really happening deep in its unseen circuits? Outdated programs are being deleted, corrupted files cleared, new code written line by line. The silence, the unresponsiveness, the blank screen, they are not failure. They are proof that a higher version is being installed. This is what your 0-point calibration feels like. The routines that once served you affirmations, visualizations, rituals suddenly stop responding. The spiritual apps that used to open with ease now crash, no longer compatible with the new operating system. It feels as though you've been locked out of your own soul. And yet, the truth is more radical. The system itself is being rebuilt from the ground up. Do you remember the panic when an update takes longer than expected? You press buttons, restart the device, even yank the power cord, desperate to force it back into motion. But each interference only delays the process. The wisest choice, frustrating as it feels, is to wait, to trust the progress bar you cannot see, to surrender control to the intelligence woven into the code. So it is with you. The blankness you feel, the absence of guidance, the frozen silence, these are not malfunctions. They are indicators that the old software of your identity has reached its end of life. The programs of survival, the scripts of self-doubt, the apps of comparison and fear, they are being uninstalled. And here's the paradox: you cannot bring those programs into your next reality. They are incompatible with flight. The butterfly does not crawl with caterpillar legs, and you cannot enter your higher timeline carrying obsolete code. To cling to them now is like trying to install floppy disk programs on quantum hardware. The system will reject them because your soul is insisting on freedom. But here lies the challenge: the mind doesn't like downtime. It fears the blank screen. It interprets silence as breakdown, when in fact silence is maintenance. Your spirit knows what your mind cannot. This blackout is not the end. It is the passage into a new operating system altogether. Feel that for a moment. Let it sink in. The black screen of your life, the cursor that no longer blinks, these are not symbols of loss. They are signs of reboot. And notice this: when the system finally restarts after an update, it often looks the same at first. The icons are familiar, the wallpaper unchanged, but beneath the surface, the architecture is faster, more fluid, more capable. Hidden possibilities appear, functions you couldn't access before, pathways that didn't exist in the old version. So too with you. The face in the mirror may not look different immediately. The routines of daily life may continue, but deep in your energetic architecture, new capacity is alive. New codes have been written. And here's where the real empowerment begins. You get to decide which applications to reinstall. Not all the old programs deserve a place in this new system. Some were viruses masquerading as virtues: perfectionism, martyrdom, self-doubt. Some were heavy legacy code, ancestral patterns, cultural scripts, stories of unworthiness. When the system boots up, you are not required to load them again. You can choose differently. So the question becomes, what will you install in this new operating system of your soul? What will you allow to run on this upgraded hardware? Will you reinstall fear? Or will you finally give permission for love to be the default? Will you let scarcity take up memory space? Or will you open to abundance as the native setting? The silence you dread is nothing less than a divine update in progress. Your task is not to interfere, not to force the machine to respond, but to wait in reverent trust. And when the screen lights up again, know this: you will not be running on the same script. You will be carrying the codes of flight. And when the system reboots, when the black screen begins to glow again with hidden upgrades, something essential shifts. You are no longer who you were, and your role in the journey can no longer remain the same. You are not the desperate seeker, clawing at the silence for signs. You are not the pilgrim dragging yourself up an endless hill. That identity belonged to the caterpillar, and the caterpillar is gone. What remains is more sacred, more demanding, and infinitely more powerful. You are the guardian. The guardian is not a figure of weakness, begging for permission from the universe. The guardian is the one entrusted with the chrysalis itself, the sacred container in which metamorphosis completes its work. The guardian does not force the process, nor interfere with the delicate weaving underway. The guardian protects the silence, honors the dissolution, and tends the invisible fire of transformation. This role is not easy. It requires standing firm when the world around you misunderstands. Because from the outside, your chrysalis looks strange. To those still living by caterpillar logic, Your quiet will look like withdrawal. Your need for solitude will resemble apathy. And your refusal to chase external validation will be called failure. They will not see the sacredness of what you are guarding. They cannot. And this is why the guardian must be fierce. Fierce not in striving, but in holding. Fierce in devotion to the invisible. Fierce in protecting the delicate codes being written inside your silence from the noise of a world that demands proof, productivity, and performance. Think of a mother protecting her unborn child. She shields her body. She watches what she consumes. She creates an environment of safety for something no one else can yet see. So too must you. As guardian of your metamorphosis, treat your chrysalis as holy. It is not laziness to rest. It is reverence. It is not selfishness to withdraw. It is stewardship of the most fragile stage of your evolution. The seeker always asks, when will I arrive? When will I see the results? But the guardian already knows arrival is inevitable. The butterfly does not doubt its wings. The only task is to protect the sacred process until those wings are ready. And that is why your identity must shift. No longer seeker, no longer supplicant, now protector, now keeper, now guardian. This is not a passive role. In fact, it is one of the most active stances you can embody. For the guardian stands at the threshold of worlds, one foot in the silence, the other in the noise of ordinary reality. And your responsibility is to ensure that the fragile pulse of your new being is not smothered by the static of the old. You must learn to say no without guilt, to withdraw without apology, to honor solitude as sanctuary, not as exile. You must learn to see every interruption, every intrusion of doubt, every voice that pulls you back into caterpillar consciousness as a test of guardianship. And you must choose again and again to protect the silence within. Because what is growing inside you is beyond price. It is your butterfly self. It is the future that cannot yet be named. And if you allow the noise of others' opinions, the weight of their expectations, or the chatter of your old mind to invade the chrysalis, you risk disturbing the sacred weave. The guardian understands this. The guardian holds the boundary with compassion, but also with strength. The guardian knows that not everyone can be invited into the chamber of transformation. Some will not understand, some will scoff, some will unintentionally project their own fear, and so the guardian keeps the circle small, the silence intact, the womb unpolluted. So take this to heart. The seeker's task was to search. The guardian's task is to protect. Protect your silence, protect your void, protect the fertile emptiness in which your imaginal cells are connecting. Do not allow distraction to pierce the chrysalis. Do not let fear masquerade as responsibility. Do not abandon the altar of your transformation because others cannot yet see its fire. You are the guardian now, and with that role comes the authority to say, this silence is sacred, this darkness is holy, this stillness is mine to protect. And once you claim the mantle of guardian, the next question rises naturally. How do I protect this sacred chrysalis? How do you live in a world that will constantly try to pierce your cocoon, to drag you back into noise, to convince you that your silence is apathy, your rest is laziness, your stillness is failure? This is where the guardian learns their tools. These tools are not like the caterpillar's practices. They are not desperate affirmations, forced visualizations, or endless rituals aimed at fixing what is not broken. These tools are gentler, subtler, and infinitely more powerful. They are designed not to make the metamorphosis happen, but to protect the space in which it is already happening. The first tool is the sanctuary of the void. It is simple, almost radical in its simplicity. 5 minutes a day, No music, no mantras, no requests. Just you sitting in silence, allowing yourself to feel the emptiness without trying to fill it. 5 minutes where you stop asking the universe to respond, and instead you honor the void itself as holy ground. Can you feel how different that is? It is not bargaining. It is reverence. It is not striving. It is permission. In those 5 minutes, you are declaring to the cosmos, I trust the silence. I honor the darkness. I accept the void as fertile, not frightening. That is the guardian's vow. The second tool is the imaginal filter. This is how the guardian makes choices in the world without compromising the chrysalis. Every opportunity, every invitation, every yes or no, you speak before you respond. You breathe, you pause, and you ask, does this choice come from my caterpillar memory or my butterfly promise? The caterpillar's memory will speak in the voice of fear. Stay safe. Don't risk it. Who do you think you are? It will cloak itself in logic, in responsibility, in the voices of others. But the butterfly's promise is quieter, almost fragile. It feels like expansion in the chest, like a subtle yes in the body before the mind can argue. The guardian's task is to honor that whisper, even when it defies logic, to choose the resonance of the butterfly's promise over the echo of the caterpillar's fear. Imagine the power of this filter. A job offer might look flawless on paper, yet through the filter, you sense it comes from survival, not expansion. You decline it, trusting space for something aligned. A relationship might feel comfortable, but the filter reveals it is built on your old self, not the being you are becoming. You release it with love, opening a room for connection that can meet you in the sky. Each choice through the filter becomes a thread that protects the chrysalis and nourishes your future wings. The third tool is the information diet. A physical chrysalis is sealed. Nothing external can enter while the transformation unfolds. So too must you seal your energetic field. News that floods you with fear, conversations rooted in complaint, social feeds that stir comparison, opinions from those who cannot see your process. These are toxins. They are not neutral. They corrode the silence you are guarding. To fast from interference is not ignorance. It is wisdom. It is recognizing that your system is exquisitely sensitive right now, more porous than usual, because it is being rewritten. Protecting your cocoon is not selfishness. It is responsibility. It is devotion to the life that is being gestated within you. So turn down the volume of the outside world. Limit what you consume, not out of fear, but out of reverence. Replace noise with space. Replace chatter with stillness. Allow your field to be so clear that the only signal you hear is the whisper of your own imaginal cells weaving wings in the darkness. These three tools, the sanctuary of the void, the imaginal filter, and the information diet, are not chores. They are vows. They are declarations to yourself and to the cosmos. I honor my chrysalis. I guard my transformation. I protect the silence in which I am being reborn. And in wielding them, you will discover that guardianship is not about waiting passively. It is about active protection, active devotion, active reverence for what is unseen. This is how you ensure that the butterfly within you has room to form, undisturbed, uncorrupted, unstoppable. Because the truth is, the world does not need another seeker. It needs guardians, beings who can protect the fragile silence of transformation until it erupts into wings. And that, beloved, is now your task. And with the guardian's tools in hand, your sanctuary of silence, your imaginal filter, your information diet, something begins to stir in the stillness. You start to sense it, faint at first, like the tremble of a hidden melody. This is the butterfly's promise. It doesn't shout, it doesn't demand, it arrives as resonance, A subtle yes in the body before the mind has time to argue. A gentle expansion in the chest, as if invisible wings are testing their span. You may not see the form yet, but you feel the pull toward a future that is not built from fear, not sculpted from survival, but encoded with freedom. This is the paradox. The caterpillar's memory is loud, authoritative, urgent. It says, be careful, stay small, stay known. The butterfly's promise is quiet, almost fragile, asking only for your trust. And the guardian's task is to lean into the whisper, not the shout. Consider how you've made decisions before. Perhaps you took jobs that made logical sense but drained your soul. Perhaps you entered relationships that felt comfortable but carried the same cycles of pain. Those were choices made from the caterpillar's memory survival strategies, masquerading as destiny. They kept you crawling on the same leaf, never imagining there was an entire sky waiting. But when you choose from the butterfly's promise, everything changes. The logic may not line up. The security may not be guaranteed, yet something inside you knows this is the path. You feel lighter after saying yes, even if it makes no sense on paper. You feel freer after saying no, even if the world calls you foolish. These are the markers of the butterfly's resonance. And here is the miracle: the more you honor that resonance, the stronger it becomes. At first, it is like catching a radio signal through static faint, intermittent, uncertain. But as you keep tuning in, as you keep protecting the silence, the frequency sharpens. The whisper grows clearer. The promise becomes undeniable. The butterfly's promise is not about specific outcomes, money, recognition, external success. It is about alignment. It is about moving in harmony with your true design, the one encoded in your imaginal cells from the beginning. When you follow that resonance, outcomes still come, but they are not the goal. They are the natural byproduct of being in tune with your soul's architecture. Think of the caterpillar again. It never once strategized how to fly. It never drew diagrams of wings, never attended classes on navigating the air. The code was already inside it. All it had to do was surrender to dissolution and allow the promise to fulfill itself. The same is true for you, and yet the caterpillar's memory will keep trying to pull you back. It will whisper, play it safe, don't risk it, don't change too much. It will tell you the sky is too vast, too dangerous. That memory will tempt you to settle for crawling, even though you were born for flight. This is why the guardian must remain vigilant. To honor the butterfly's promise, you must consistently choose resonance over fear, expansion over contraction, trust over logic. Not because logic is bad, but because logic is built from old data, the records of crawling, not the design of wings. So ask yourself now, where in your life is the butterfly's promise whispering? Where do you feel a subtle yes, even though your mind can't explain it? Where do you feel expansion that frightens you because it asks you to grow beyond recognition? Those are the doorways. Those are the invitations. Those are the threads leading from the cocoon into the sky. And remember, the promise is not fragile because it is weak. It is fragile because it is new. It asks for your protection, your faith, your willingness to believe in a future your caterpillar mind cannot yet see. If you honor it, if you guard it, if you follow it, then one day you will look back and realize the whisper was always the truest voice of all. The butterfly's promise is not distant. It is alive within you now, and it is calling you to trust that the wings forming in silence are not fantasy, but inevitability. And when the butterfly's promise grows strong enough to be felt in your bones, the question arrives like a knock at the edge of the cocoon. How do I live this in the world? Because the outer noise hasn't stopped. The demands, the expectations, the endless invitations of the old life still surround you. The workplace still wants performance. Relationships still expect old patterns. The world still asks you to crawl, even as your wings begin to tremble awake. This is the tenderest stage of all, the moment when you must re-enter the noise without losing the silence you have cultivated. To live in the world again, but not of it. To walk as a butterfly in a field still crowded with caterpillars. The first truth to anchor is this: you cannot return to the old way. You cannot put the butterfly back in the chrysalis, no matter how comfortable crawling once seemed. The programs have been deleted, the codes rewritten. If you try to live as the caterpillar, the dissonance will tear you apart. So the only choice is to embody what you have become, even if the world doesn't yet understand. And understand this: the world may resist you. Some will say you've changed too much. Some will call your silence withdrawal, your boundaries selfish, your light a threat. This is not evidence that you are wrong. It is proof that you are no longer playing the same game. The butterfly does not need approval from the leaf. Living in the world again means carrying your sanctuary with you. The sanctuary of the void is not just 5 minutes a day. It becomes the energetic stance you hold in every interaction. You walk into conversations rooted in silence. You approach challenges with the stillness of the operating room. You no longer beg for signs. You radiate presence. It also means living by the imaginal filter. Each decision, big or small, is sifted not by fear but by resonance. You feel for expansion, for the quiet yes, and you let that yes guide you, even when others demand explanations. The butterfly does not argue with the caterpillar about why wings are better than legs. It simply flies. And perhaps most importantly, living in the world again requires you to keep curating your information diet. Protecting your field is a lifelong guardianship. You are no longer careless about what enters your consciousness. You choose carefully what voices you allow near your chrysalis-born reality. This is not withdrawal, it is discernment. The paradox is this: as you re-enter life, you must balance visibility with invisibility. The butterfly reveals itself through beauty, but it does not announce its process to every passing creature. It lands softly, it moves gracefully, and it follows currents of wind that only it can feel. So too with you. Not everyone is meant to understand your metamorphosis. Not everyone is meant to witness it. But those who are ready will feel your resonance, and they will recognize in your wings the whisper of their own. Living in the world again does not mean proving your transformation. It means embodying it. It means showing up as a living testament that silence is not abandonment, but calibration. That dissolution is not death, but rebirth. That zero is not nothing, but origin. And here lies the gift: the world itself begins to shift in response to your new frequency. Conversations deepen. Opportunities align with uncanny timing. Relationships recalibrate, some falling away, others blossoming into new resonance, without forcing, without begging, without struggle. You begin to live as evidence that transformation is real, that the quantum chrysalis is not myth, but lived truth. This is how you walk back into the noise without losing the silence. By remembering that you are not the caterpillar seeking leaves, you are not even the chrysalis holding on in the dark. You are the butterfly, and the air itself is your new element. The same silence that once felt suffocating has now become the wind beneath your wings. And with every beat, you remind yourself and the world, the void was not emptiness, it was the birthplace of everything you are now becoming. And so, from the wings that finally unfurl, we arrive at the quiet truth. This whole journey has been pointing to: you were never lost. You were being rewritten. You were never abandoned. You were being tuned back to your original frequency. The cocoon that felt like a tomb was always a womb. The silence that screamed like absence was always reverence. The dissolution you feared as death was the very process by which your future self was born. Every moment of stillness, every pang of panic, every hour of emptiness was not wasted, it was sacred. Now you stand in the afterglow of that metamorphosis, and though the world around you still clamors, though the noise of old life still calls, something in you is unshakable, because you have touched the 0 point. You have felt the imaginal soup. You have witnessed your own undoing and discovered it was not undoing at all, but the most intricate act of creation. So what happens now, you live it. Not perfectly, not dramatically, but authentically. You carry the sanctuary of your silence into the noise of the world. You filter every choice through the resonance of your butterfly promise. You guard your energy with reverence, knowing it is the fertile ground of everything to come. And when doubt creeps back, and it will, you remember the paradox that saved you. Silence is not the absence of God. It is the very breath of God before the word is spoken. So breathe now. Feel the air in your lungs, the subtle hum in your chest, the quiet wings stirring in your field. This is not imagination. This is you. You are not waiting for transformation. You are transformation, alive, awake, unfolding in this very moment. Carry that knowing gently. Carry it fiercely. And let it remind you every time you hear the silence, you are not alone. You are not empty. You are overflowing with potential, and your wings are already remembering how to fly.